Ingrid's Ju-52 aircraft, affectionately nicknamed Old Iron Annie, was notorious for its slow speed, making it an easy target for the brutal blizzard and the Soviet Luftwaffe interceptors. But Ingrid's flying skills were unparalleled. Ingrid's biggest enemy was not fuel, but ice. Ice was accumulating rapidly on the Ju-52's wings, increasing the aircraft's weight to critical limits where it could simply drop from the sky. Ingrid was forced to constantly descend to lower altitudes to use warmer air to shed the ice, a move that exposed her dangerously to Soviet patrols. Just before taking off, Ingrid faced harsh taunts from the commander of the mail transport squadron, who doubted a woman could complete the mission. Ingrid confirmed in her internal monologue, "They doubt my capability. I will prove to them that courage has no gender." Near Stalingrad, Ingrid faced a direct encounter with a Soviet Luftwaffe fighter, an aircraft far faster and more maneuverable than the Ju-52. Ingrid had no defensive armament, relying solely on the Ju-52's surprising structural stability. Ingrid pulled off a maneuver that only a transport pilot could conceive. She abruptly forced the Ju-52 into a low-altitude dive. The Luftwaffe attempted to follow, but the sheer size and low-speed stability of the Ju-52 allowed her to disappear quickly into a pocket of thick snow. The Soviet pilot, confused by the transport plane's aggressive dive, broke off the pursuit. Ingrid had successfully evaded the attacker. The Ju-52's sole cargo was a mere handful of medical supplies. Ingrid knew this was far from enough for a massive encircled army, but it was a desperate sliver of hope. The Stalingrad airfield was a nightmare, littered with debris and corpses, constantly under heavy Soviet shelling. Landing was seemingly impossible. Ingrid had to use every ounce of her skill to wrestle the heavy aircraft onto the icy, bomb-cratered runway, utilizing the full capacity of her vast landing gear. She successfully landed, but immediately realized she was in the thick of the battlefield. Ingrid received direct, uncompromising orders from the field marshal's representative: evacuate only officers and wounded commanders. The rest of the troops will remain here to fight. This was a profound moral shock to her system. Outside her plane, thousands of desperately wounded men were begging to be taken back. A German officer threatened Ingrid that she would be shot if she dared to defy the orders. Ingrid's eyes burned, but her resolve held firm. The moral decision. Ingrid refused to shut down her aircraft's engines, claiming it was a necessary security precaution. This gave her cover. She subtly gave her flight engineer a separate, whispered order: load as many wounded men as you can, not the officers, but the weakest ones, the common soldiers. Ingrid allowed only 2 high-ranking officers to board, enough to satisfy the commanding officer's initial observation. She then filled the remaining space, grossly overloading the aircraft, with approximately 30 severely wounded regular soldiers, defying the direct command. The officer realized Ingrid's defiance and shouted, "You are a traitor. You will not fly this aircraft." The final gamble. Ingrid shoved the furious officer aside and climbed into the cockpit. Due to the extreme overload, the Ju-52 required the entire length of the damaged runway to gain speed. Simultaneously, Soviet artillery began shelling the runway. Ingrid had to navigate her slow, heavy aircraft through that barrage of fire. The plane barely lifted into the freezing air. The storm in Soviet pursuit. The aircraft plunged back into the blizzard. A Soviet MiG-3 quickly pursued her. Ingrid flew her aircraft right into the strongest, most turbulent wind currents of the storm, creating such an unpredictable flight path that the MiG-3 pilot deemed the pursuit too dangerous and retreated. Ingrid landed safely back in German-held territory. Her aircraft was pockmarked with dozens of holes in the wings, but she had saved every single one of those wounded soldiers. The aftermath. Immediately upon landing, Ingrid faced the threat of a court-martial for disobeying the field marshal's direct orders. However, the stories of the common soldiers she saved created an undeniable sentiment at the base. Colonel Schultz, the very man who had initially yelled at her, intervened. He ruled that he would take no action against Ingrid. He officially recorded, Lieutenant von Boden departed with the specified cargo and returned with the specified passengers. Epilogue. Ingrid von Boden never received official recognition for that harrowing Stalingrad mission. Her story became one of the most extraordinary secret humanitarian sacrifices of World War II, where a woman pilot placed humanity above military duty. She became the Frost Eagle of the Luftwaffe, saving dozens of lives under her wings, even though history deliberately buried her name among the male pilots.